So idea number 7 of the Renaissance ideas that will save America is fortified cities. This is basically the end of the castle era, which is the ultimate fortified house. But like I said before, they weren't trying to seclude themselves off from the world anymore. The world was opening back up. It got closed for a while. They got disconnected. But all of the dots on the map are being reconnected in the Renaissance. Think about today with the internet and worldwide global trade. The dots are being connected. Do you really want to close yourself off? Are you really at an advantage if you just go live disconnected from that? Sure, it might be a little bit peaceful if you go live like Henry David Thoreau for a while and just go hop into the woods and, you live all by yourself. But think of how lonely that will be and how disconnected you are from the rest of the human race. We're social creatures. We benefit greatly from being around other people because people have different perspectives and ideas that we don't have access to. And there's strength in numbers. And so it's not a good idea. It's not good for us to be alone. So the end of the castle era is ending. The medieval era is ending. And we need to figure out how to build our cities and our houses with adequate protection because there's still bad guys out there. There's never going to be a world without bad guys. Think about if a famine is happening in some land, and we go back to this last idea of independent food supply, and these dumbasses over here don't have any food supply, what are they going to do? Well, are they going to die or try to come take yours? That's a no-brainer. They're going to try to come take yours. First, they might ask politely, but if you don't have enough and you say no, they're going to kill you. And they're going to break in and they're going to kill you and take everything you have and commandeer your village. So you can't get around this idea. There's no such thing as like, well, let's just all be kind and hope to get along. That's stupid. That doesn't work. That's not how history works. That's not how history unfolded. People are brutal. And everybody seems to be really nice right now. But when society collapses and people get desperate and they get hungry and their children are getting ready to starve, people get violent really quick. And so you need to find a way to protect yourself. And it's a lot more than just arming yourself. So you have to create walls. And so this was an idea that they had in the Renaissance that we've just lost totally today. I mean, how many times do you go to a city and you have to like enter through one of their gates because the whole entire city is walled off? I mean, think about how big of an immigration crisis Europe is going through and America is going through, where they have all these people coming in and they don't even know who's coming into their country. They don't even know. They don't even know how many it is. They don't know why they're there. It's putting a burden on the system. And this is something that they realize, hey, look, we're not going to have this here. You have walls on your house for a reason. It's not like we're just out here in tents anymore, We have a house with walls and there's only a couple ways to get into your house. And that's the reason, because it's your house. It's not everybody else's house, it's yours. And there's a reason why you keep your doors locked at night and you just don't let any random person walk in and start rummaging through your fridge, because that food was there for your family. It wasn't for everybody in the world. And this is the same thing with our cities. And our cities were built for a particular people in a particular area. This doesn't mean that you want to keep everybody out all the time. I'm not advocating for isolationism here. It's the same thing of like, well, you want people coming into the city and trading. You want to share ideas with distant lands. But you also have to make sure you keep certain things out. You want to have lots of people over to your house, have lots of dinner parties, have lots of social gatherings. That's great. But you also need to say, hey, look, there's a type of person who's not allowed in this house. And that's the type of person who's going to come here and try to harm my family. The person who's going to come here and try to take advantage of everything that I've worked so hard to build. And they're going to take and never give anything back. Or just a deranged, crazy lunatic. You don't want those people in your house either. So security was of utmost importance. And now we rely way too much on the police system. We rely way too much on the legal system. But that's all we have, just an illusion of safety. But that could crumble in a second. So there's this idea that our nation needs to have strong borders. Our states need to have strong borders. Our cities need to have strong borders. But also, as a last line of defense, our homes need to have strong borders too. And this is a whole deep topic for another day of how to actually increase the security of your home. And it's a lot more than just stocking up on guns and ammo. There's a lot more than that. And there's a whole entire philosophy of architectural features that you could add to your home and all sorts of things you could do, like gates and fences and certain types of plants and stuff you could put outside. Just that they did all different types of studies on the types of houses that get broken into and the types of houses that don't. And that's a video that I'm going to make for another day. But there's really actually a science to keeping bad guys out of your house. And this is, like I said, none of these ideas are like, oh wow, this is like some magic utopian pill that you take and all your problems are solved. But it reduces the chance of catastrophe happening and it optimizes your potential. And that's really all we can hope for in this world. By creating these walls, it would regulate the trade. It would let you know what's actually coming in and what's going out. They were able to keep tally. They were able to keep track. And like the same way the family was supposed to keep meticulous attention to their financial health, so like the family and the city, they're both expected to keep meticulous attention to their financial health. You can't separate the two. If you have a city with a bunch of families that have unhealthy policies and they are all going poor, the city will eventually go poor. It doesn't really matter. And the same with the other way, if you flip it around. You need health overall, generally speaking, on a big scale and a larger scale, because they're connected and they all affect each other. And this is something that we have to realize. This is the way nature is. If you take out one part of the ecosystem and you mess it up, it kind of ruins all the other parts too. And we have this idea today of tolerance and diversity, where it's extremely damaging to society. This is one of the things that's causing a lot of the immigration problems. And I might be losing some people here because of how touchy of a subject this is. Some people might think this is a very insensitive thing to do, to say you want actually less tolerance and less diversity. Isn't a diverse ecosystem the most strongest ecosystem? Not exactly. Because what we need to understand is there are certain parts of the world with different environments, and you can't get over that. The tropics is a different place than the desert. You get what I'm saying? The rainforest is a different place than the tropics or the desert. I'm drawing a blank here on different types of ecosystems. Then the Arctic. Okay, so you have all these different types of ecosystems here on the world. And you take one plant and you move it to the other, and it's not necessarily going to do too well in that environment. The plants have to do well in their environment. And that's the same thing for people. People have natural environments all across the world. And I know it doesn't sound like a nice thing to say, but it's true. It's the same way that plants are. That you have a certain type of plant that goes really good here, and you have a nice, diverse ecosystem. And think about how many times, this is happening on my property in particular. There are some people who decades ago, they decided to bring over certain types of species from foreign countries. So they thought, oh, these species look really nice. We'll put them as decorations in their garden. And what do you know? They turned out to be invasive species. And now these invasive species have taken over and killed all of the other plants around. And it's just that species now. And this is all just like, well, let's just try to be nice. This looks kind of cool. So what could be the problem? What could be the downside of adding this in? Well, there's a lot of downside. That species that you invite in, and not ignorant and unaware, just trying to be nice, ignorant and unaware of what's actually going on, and like what effect that species is going to have on your environment. Well, it could have dire consequences. There's Japanese stiltgrass, multiflora rose, Japanese knotweed, mile a minute, tree of heaven. This stuff is just taking over, and it's not just the property on the little farmland where I live. It's everywhere. I mean, all across. Then you have like stuff like Asian ladybugs, and stink bugs, and now they got these. What are they? The lantern flies. You got the lantern flies coming everywhere. This is not a good thing. You don't want that, because you put this foreign species over into this new environment, and without proper regulation of who gets to come and who gets to go, of what type of things. And this goes on plants, food, animals, people, all of that. You want to be able to regulate that. And walls and proper borders and boundaries set help regulate that. Because nature already regulates itself. But we create these artificial structures and these artificial synthetic environments. And we think we could do that and then just play God and bring things across borders and cross all these boundaries and redefine things and just think we could somehow get away with it. But we can't. The more we try to play God, the worse it's going to get. We have to pay attention to the laws of nature. This was the Renaissance idea. Be in harmony with nature. There's a structure that God set up to the universe that you have to follow. It doesn't matter how nice these theories sound, because the universe is a harsh place. It's a brutal reality. And so you have to fortify your cities. You have to fortify your towns. This was not just, this was not just about physical things too. It was about ideas. There was battles for ideas. And this is something that we lost today of, how come the men of the house aren't allowed to say, don't bring that book into my house. We're not going to read that here. We have a certain type of way of thinking around here, and we're not going to change that here. I mean, to the modern mind, this may sound absolutely tyrannical and absurd. And I understand, because if this is a new idea to you, it probably does sound tyrannical and absurd. And I'm not inviting you to accept it blindly. If this does sound crazy, I just want to invite you to look into it. Is it really good just to invite any idea in? Let's just be open-minded. Let's invite any idea in, because all ideas have equal merit. I'm not falling for that one bit. Not in this house, at least. Maybe if you want to do that, go do your own thing over there. But we're going to protect this house. We're going to protect the ideas. I mean, wouldn't you do that with your own mind? If someone comes in and starts telling you a whole bunch of negative things about you and trying to beat you up and tear you down, are you going to keep hanging out with that person? If someone is always hanging out with you and trying to push you to your greatest potential, and someone's saying, hey, look, you could do this better. Here's a way to help you out. I have this idea for you. And they keep providing value, you want to hang out with that person more. And if someone's trying to beat you down and tear you up, you're going to want to hang out with them less. Hopefully you're self-aware enough to realize that. But now, what about the books that we're reading, the TV that we're watching? The TV that we're watching, the stuff we're scrolling through on our phones are just putting ideas in nonstop. Where is the barrier? Where is the wall? Where is the fortification? The strength gives you the autonomy to have free will. If you're just letting any idea come in, and you don't even know where these ideas are coming from or what's the fruit of these ideas afterwards, you're going to be led down some dark roads. And it's just going to be everybody wanting to take advantage of you. And it's going to be you against the world. You need to be able to put a proper boundary around both the physical and mental spaces. Like I said before, these Renaissance families were invested into libraries. And it wasn't just like, oh, let's just have any and every book come in here. It's like, we're looking for very specific types of books that are going to increase the value of my mind, increase the value of the storehouses of my mental capacity. And if these books aren't going to actually be benefiting me, I don't want them in the library. So there was this idea of fortification on all fronts. And even in the cities, if you look, it would start off small and they would build a little border around here. And as the city would expand, they would build another wall. And as they would expand, they would build another wall. So it's like, it's not just like you build a wall once and then you draw the line in the sand and it's like, no, okay, we're never ever going to cross this ever. That's like a stagnant, static worldview. The world is a dynamic place. You have to, fortification is a constant effort. It's a continual practice that you have to be putting in every single day of your life, every single moment. Where is the line going to be drawn today? And this is mostly the job of the men in the society, of the men of the household. Now, women have their own part of this too. But generally speaking, this is just an overgeneralization, that the men are the boundaries, the protectors. They're the more hard-willed, the more stubborn-minded of the two genders. And so that's the job. And a lot of the men today, they're too scared to set the boundaries. They're like, oh, well, let's just be open-minded. Let's be accepting and loving of people. Goes all the way back to the story of Genesis. What happens in the story of Genesis? In the very beginning, Eve has the serpent that she thinks her motherly compassion is enough to overcome the serpent. And she's not obviously a mother yet, but this is just overgeneralization. Okay, so she thinks that her female compassion is enough to overcome the poison of the serpent. Her willingness to accept a new idea. Hey, this idea, it couldn't be that bad. Let's incorporate this idea into it. I'm going to consume this idea. Well, guess what? No matter how much compassion you have for another, that compassion is not going to overcome the poison of the serpent. So don't clutch the serpent to your breast. Don't invite the serpent into your home. There is like a sexually aroused predatory animal at your doorstep. And the only way to keep him out is just to not invite him in. put up a good boundary and a good border so you don't get fucked. I mean, I know this sounds brutal. I'm kind of getting crazy here. But it's absolutely so important. And then what happens in the rest of the story is, well, then Adam goes along with it. He's like, oh, okay, that's fine. And then he blames God. Whoa, you gave me this woman, blah, blah, blah. Well, he should have said, absolutely not. We're getting rid of this fruit and we're not having it in here. It's a bad tree. So the fortification of the cities was absolutely fundamental to everything else that we've talked about before. If you don't have a strength, if you don't have the resiliency to overcome attacks on your mind or physical attacks, then it doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. You have to be able to protect. So we have to get rid of this idea of tolerance and diversity is somehow a good thing. We have to understand the concept of invasive species. There are species that you cannot allow into certain environments. Keep them out. And sometimes it's best just to play it safe and say, look, I know they might be able to be beneficial, but right now we don't know. So as far as we know, we're just keeping them out until we learn more about them. Don't let new ideas in just because they're, oh, wow, this is some crazy cool new idea. This is about the revival of antiquity here. It's not like we don't need all of these new modern theories. There's already examples from history of what worked and what didn't. So let's just go back to that and learn about that. You see this in art and architecture and government and all of that. Hey, we have this new theory of how this works, this new design theory, this new government theory and all of that. Why do you need to invent something new? Look at what worked and look at what didn't and then utilize that. You don't need to have, or else you'll get just totally screwed. So they would have all of these layers, and then there would be specific gates. All these walls, and you just have little narrow openings where you could come in and out. And then you get to regulate that, and you could pay much more attention. Without the wall, if things are coming and going from all angles, you can't properly track the health of the nation. You can't properly track the health of the house. And I would argue you don't even have a house at that point. If you don't have any walls, then you don't actually have a house. If you don't have any walls, then you actually don't even have a country. You need the walls to have that's a fundamental aspect of individual unit set apart from the rest of the world is walls, is barriers, boundaries, and you have to have that. If there's not a barrier between you and other people, I would argue you're not an individual person. You know, that's the thing that separates your perspective from somebody else's. You have this physical being that's separate from the other physical being, and you both have different viewpoints. If everybody was just like blobbed together in this big fleshy blob, and somehow our consciousnesses were all tied together, we wouldn't be individual people. So your body is a temple. You have to preserve it, and you have to protect it. Protect the ideas that come in and out. It's a space set aside. And your house should also be a space set aside. And then your city should also be a space set aside from all the rest. And then you could actually go to all of these different areas. And it's like, oh wow, I could go to this part of the world and I could actually experience that culture. It's not like this multicultural myth that they're trying to sell us today, this multicultural theory where it's like, well, let's go and let's go and have all of the cultures be blended together, and then you basically have no cultures at all. What happens if you, let's put a little bit of the Arctic, a little bit of the desert, a little bit of that here and there, and then, we'll have it all blend together, and then it'll all be fine and we'll all get along. It's like, no, that's not how nature works. It segments out. And it's like, in this part of the world, this works. In this part of the world, this works. I mean, if I go to Germany or if I go to Italy, I want to experience German people and German food. If I, maybe not German food, they're not known for having the best food. If I go to Italy, I want to experience Italian culture and Italian food. You don't want to go there and it's like, well, what's here in Italy? Oh my goodness, it's just a bunch of third world scammers standing around the Colosseum. Well, that's not Italian culture. Why would they let that in? And this is part of the reason why Europe is falling. You want to go to certain places and be able to experience that particular culture. You want to be able to go to Japan and say, look, there's actually Japanese people here. Let's learn about Japanese heritage. Especially if you go to Japan and there's no Japanese people there. This is not going to be something that people are going to want to go travel to see. There's a reason why people travel all over the world to very specific areas, because they have a unique culture. And that's getting ruined. This is something that you have a unique perspective in life. And you don't want that to be ruined. So you want to find ways to cultivate it, and you could take ideas from other people and add that in, like we talked about at the beginning with trade. You could take ideas and you could add it in, but everybody should just choose their own. You should choose your own culture. You should choose your own personal perspective. Your own house should be priority. What do they say on the plane when the plane crashes? Put on your own mask first before you help out somebody else. Like, worry about what's happening right here before you worry about everything else. Like, take care of your own little garden, take care of your own house, take care of your own mind before you go worry about everything else. That was kind of a longer section, the fortified cities. I'm going to end this section 7 with 2 quotes from the Renaissance. Well, one is from ancient Rome and one is from the Renaissance, about the importance of city fortification. And this will also lead into the last one, number 6 as well, of the importance of independent food supply. Here's a quote from Vitruvius, the most greatest architect of all time. The city must be fortified not only with walls, but also with the foresight of provisions. For without a secure supply of water and grain, no city can endure a siege, however strong its towers. This perfectly connects both of those last 2 sections. Those last 2 ideas. I mean, you have to have good walls, but you also have to have foresight of provisions. Without a supply of water and grain, no city can endure a siege, however strong its towers. This was actually the method that they used, that why castles became obsolete, is they would just surround the castle. It's like, you guys have such a finite supply in there, we could just surround and just cut off your access to the rest of the world, and eventually you're going to run out and you're going to need to come out and surrender. That was one of the methods of castle warfare. It wasn't the only one, but it was one of them, and it was pretty effective. You cut off that supply of water and grain, doesn't matter. That castle, yeah, you could go throw rocks at it for forever. You could catapult stuff at it, cannon. If the walls are strong enough, there's nothing you could do. So maybe the walls will outlast all of your attacks. But how much food and water you got in there? That's another way to take them out. And if you think that your enemies aren't aware of this, you need to study history. This is something that all of the enemies of your country is very well aware of. And this is something that they're counting on you to have an inadequate food supply. So you're basically handing them over the keys to your city and to your country by having an inadequate food supply. And that's our fault. And we're basically sealing our own fate by doing that. So we all need to be working on that. And we can't be letting these foreign countries come in and buy up all of our farmland. We need to start personally investing into farmland. I mean, yeah, Bitcoin's cool and all, but Bitcoin can't produce a ear of corn. Bitcoin can't give me a pumpkin patch. Like, I want to be able to touch the dirt. And so we should all be setting aside a little bit of money here and looking at a little plot of land, even if it's just a little tiny little section. Even if you don't have any land, put a little bit of a vegetable garden or a herb garden up in your window in the kitchen or something. Like, try to find out whatever ways you can get your food on your own. Make friends with a farmer and start getting your food from them. There's all different ways we could go about this. But that independent food supply is absolutely essential. We can't go on without that. Here's the quote from Machiavelli: "A prince must fortify his city with walls that all enemies," AWE, enemies, not ALL, enemies, "but also ensure it has provisions and water for a fortress with," I'm so sorry, I butcher all these quotes. Let me restart. "A prince must fortify his city with walls that all enemies, but also ensure it has provisions and water, for a fortress without sustenance is but a hollow shell." That's what happened to the castles when they tried to storm them. If you didn't have the food and water, all of that armor just became a hollow shell. So there we have it. Independent food supply, fortified cities. We're really getting into the meat of what this actually looks like, of how to structure the city, how to structure the house. Now we know what supplies it. We know what ideas are coming in and out of it, how it's traded, what type of business and government is set up, what type of people are running these things. We've learned so much about the Renaissance idea. But now let's go into the city itself and what governs it. What goes at the middle? This is idea number 8 of ideas, Renaissance ideas that will save America.